You are now entering the Luxecore Studios. And you've secured a seat for the Protecting Your Radius podcast. Here, we build connections from your contracting profession to some of the top bleeding edge products and services. Don't get deterred. Let's not delay. Here is your host, Nathan Downs.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Protecting Your Radius podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Downs, and on today's episode, we have Matt Chiaradonna from JC Fence up in Massachusetts. Matt, welcome, buddy. How you doing today, man?
Thank you, sir. Doing very well. Can't complain. Pleasure to be on the show again.
You know, what's great about Matt, for those unfortunate souls right now that are watching this on YouTube, is he's in his attic. I'm back on my Gateway AMD 300 processor laptop because we could not get my 97 devices in the Luxecore Studios working. But nonetheless, the sun's coming in behind Matt. If you're on YouTube, just hit subscribe, hit like, get off the video. This one is an audio only. Listen, look at that light behind you. It's just getting brighter by this second. It's glorious. Just like
peeking in.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Now that we've said that, we started the show this way, Matt. We like everyone probably actually needs to go to YouTube.
Yeah, come check it out. You can hang out with my samurai over here.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So that's your gaming studio, is that right? Essentially,
yeah, this is where I play Call of Duty.
Nice. COD. Yeah. COD. Yeah. You got a good loadout? You've been playing for a long time?
Oh, since I could get my thumbs to work.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. I gave up video games years ago because once we got to like past the Dooms and Quakes of the 90s,
yes,
and you could start jumping and changing your guns like on the fly, I was like, dude, that's too much for me. I was old school.
It's a lot.
I was old school. Run, shoot, strafe. Once you started jumping, crawling, Counter-Strike, like I was like, dude, it's awesome, but it's too much for me.
Good teamwork, good team building skills.
That is true. That is true. So, hey, why we're not on to talk about gaming today. Specifically, I called Matt up and asked him to sit down with us, and we're a lot of conversations, Matt, are going on around the country right now about scaling. Well, we've heard, and you've mentioned it privately with me, some of the markets in the country are severely off pace of where they have been, right? A big slowdown, big pullback and stuff. But this is an important time. And correct me if I'm wrong when you hear me say this, but I think this is an important time to evaluate our businesses and really understand, where are we at in our marketplace, but then are there other opportunities or other things that we can start focusing on, whether that's new verticals, whether that's refining our processes or our offerings to our customers, maybe in your case, like, as a wholesaler to other fence companies or whatever. But what do you think's going on right now in the economy? What are you seeing up there? Because as I mentioned to you, we're on fire, but I don't know that is real. You know what I'm saying? Like real, it's not marketplace growth. It's definitely market capture and market share. We're taking that away from other coffers where it would have been in the past years. So I'll let you talk, man. We kind of break that down.
Yeah, sure. So you're hitting the nail on the head. Obviously, there's going to be tons of companies out there that are talking about still being crazy busy, tons of growth for them. And I'm sure that is the case. I see the Facebook, the Instagrams, and there are companies out there just screaming about how crazy busy it is. And I believe it, but it's just not what I see in our market up here. Even the smaller companies who in the past few years have been experiencing growth beyond their control, even they are now feeling a lessening of appointments, a lessening of sales, revenues dropping. Obviously, I'm not an economist, but we run a business where we're entrepreneurs, so it's our duty to pay attention to what's going on around us. And I'd say it's impossible to deny rising interest rates, inflation, a slowdown of consumer spending. So if you are busy, that's awesome. Take advantage of it, but don't overdo it. In my personal, professional opinion, back to your point, I think that this year and next year are very important to really focus in on your operating procedures, focus in on your fat, cut your fat, and try to be as nimble as possible so that when this overall slowing down does get to you, you're not caught overexpanded. Even if you're confident right now, I wouldn't be overconfident. I did a podcast with Dan last year, and it was called the Emergency Episode, and we pretty much hit the nail on the head with everything that was coming. I listened to it, and everything we talked about happened within the next 52 weeks, and I would gather that what we're going to talk about today is going to happen in the next 52 weeks again. So that's what I see.
Yeah. So, Matt, some of the people may not know, if you're not familiar with Matt's story in JC Fence North Shore, is that the correct full name?
JC Fence is the company. The North Shore is where we reside.
Got it. I have no idea what that means. I need to come back to Massachusetts, obviously.
But if you like roast beef, you want to be north of Boston.
Okay.
And we have our own little area north of Boston where the North Shores, and then there's South Shore. That's south of Boston.
Gotcha.
It's a different breed. Yeah.
And then you got you go further south, you got like the Jersey Shore, gotcha. Okay. I'm just kidding. Yeah. There's
all different.
Yeah. I could imagine that. So again, you don't know who Matt is. You need to go to the Fence Industry Podcast with Dan Wheeler. You were one of his first guests, I guess. You were the OG, outside of if you look at this, think about this, Matt, this is crazy. There's Joe Everest, Sean King, Dan Wheeler shows up at that time. Dan and Cannon start to get around. And then here's Matt Chiaradonna in the middle of it. And then you had breakfast with Matt on Saturdays and all that stuff.
I'm the unsung hero. Nobody talks about me. I'm not really in the social media loop, but I was there. I was laying the groundwork up there.
It was great. I loved your stuff. The only thing I could say, so now that we're a year removed from all this stuff, the only thing I can say is I knew that you were reading your notes when you would do that.
That was all. So, that was always on my Google Docs. I was always going back to my Google Docs. Yeah.
I was like, I could tell Matt's reading. This is brilliant stuff, but I wish I couldn't tell Matt's reading. So I was glad you weren't on YouTube doing it like this, where people could see you going, yes. So, and then the market will, I was but you did awesome. I mean, the content was incredible. And those episodes, everyone needs to go back to the Fence Industry Podcast and watch or actually listen to those episodes, because you can hear Matt's backstory. You can hear how Matt got into it. I believe right now, we checked yesterday though, and seems to be a hiccup on Spotify and Apple. But nonetheless, it was some of the first several episodes that Dan Wheeler did with Matt. And you can hear that story so you understand just that the influence that Matt has in the business acumen. So you bought, as a third generation fence company owner now, you bought your company in 2007. And man, we're, 15 years removed now. And you guys have tripled, almost quadrupled in size over that period of time. One of the things that we were talking about is that scaling quotient. So when you knew it was ready to go to the next level, what were the things that you looked at inside your organization? And then specifically, what was the next step? Because I think if you can fill everyone in to correct me if I'm wrong, you had done an acquisition for expansion and different things. So kind of break that down back in the beginning, I guess you could say.
Sure. Yeah. So back in the beginning, I guess I would say my beginning of actually owning the company in that 2007 era, I was taking over from my grandfather, and it was kind of like a changing of regime. So it was, the old school way to me, young kid. I was 18 years old when I started running the company. First things first was fixing inner processes. We were not really running as smoothly and efficiently as we should be. And even though I didn't know a whole lot about business at the time, I did know that our appearance to customers and the way that we operated on a day-to-day basis was not efficient for growth. It was just hard-nosed, use old tools and keep costs low, trying to keep profits as much as possible. Again, I joke about it all the time, but it was more about how much cash we could hide under our mattress than it was about growing the business. I didn't want that. I wanted a business growth. So the first thing we needed to do was like focus internally on ourselves. We needed to give a better appearance. We needed to have company branded clothing so that when we went out there, we all looked uniform. We would have 2 crews, sometimes 3, and each of them had a different installation technique. And if you got a fence from JC Fence, one might look one way, one might look another way. I needed to fix that. I needed all of my crews to have a technique that was similar so that you could tell my brand from other people. It was really team oriented at the beginning. We had a good reputation. We had done good work. We stood by our work, and we had the call, the volume to be able to grow, but we didn't have a team built around us properly to be able to take advantage of it. So the very first thing for me was bring in some young blood, bring in some people who believed in me and saw my vision. And so that was the very first step. Let's get these people around us to be able to take advantage of the ability to grow.
So one thing you said there, Matt, that I think a lot of people that have been in business a long time that maybe haven't seen this or really understand the branding side of it. And I'm a big marketer, man. Like I love that stuff. That's the part of the business that I really get into, the sales and marketing side. But you mentioned a nugget there that I want young trade professionals and people that have been around for decades to hear. Why did you think, or what did you see that was different from everyone when you started thinking about integrating like uniforms, having everyone have a common look, having that, setting a JC Fence standard? What did that mean to you at that time?
So, for me, it was all about basic appearance. So my grandfather, not the one that started the company, the other one, he's in the Navy. I went to Catholic schools my whole entire life. I woke up, I put on the same color pants, the same color sneakers, the same shirt every single day, over and over again. And it cleans up and organizes everything that you're doing. There's no denying who those people are when you see them because they all look the same in a behavioral way as well. I didn't want to go out there and have one truck be red and one truck be blue and one truck be green and the guys show up with ripped and tattered pants, because if somebody saw my team out there putting up fence, how would they know who we were? They'd have no idea, right? Yep. I want my fence to look uniform. I want my team to look uniform so that it's very clear and obvious when we're seeing that, oh, those are the guys that wear polo shirts when they show up to look at my jobs. And those are the guys that wear the same outfit and their trucks look the same. It's much easier for them to recognize us and then pass us along. They'll feel more comfortable passing us along because they feel comfortable in what we look. They say that appearance is the most important thing. Your first impression is everything. Yep. We want that first impression to be the same over and over again.
Yep. And you said the key word there that everyone needs to hear, Matt, was that comfort. It creates an unknown subconscious comfort to say, I see the JC Fence guys. I know this brand. This is a trusted brand. And it makes it easier where I want to use their services and stuff like that. It's the same reason why I always see these conversations going on online right now about where do you advertise or how do I get more business? Man, if you could just have a common message that you're getting out in front of people and you get your face in front of people to where they see you, and it doesn't have to be your face, right?
Sure.
But your team, the image, the company, and just getting that out there and getting out there. We place a huge driver on our team with our fence signs. And we are not getting calls from our fence signs because guess what, Matt? You can't even go out there and find a phone number on my fence sign because I don't have it.
Yeah.
It's got a freaking website, right? But the idea is it just gets that recognition. We've all heard it. If you read any marketing book over the last decade, they say, someone needs to see your company 7 to 8 times minimum. Some say 15. There's numbers all over the place. But
sure,
it is proven that over half dozen times of seeing the name, of seeing the image, of seeing the company, is when that will trigger them to go, hey, this is a trusted brand. This is someone that we can invest, to take our dollars to, know that we're going to get something expected in return, and then go from there. So I love that. Everyone, comfort. We are creating comfort for our customers, for our clients, whatever you want to call them, to buy from us, to allow us to do their projects. And that's huge. So back in the story, you got that kind of squared away. You started some processes, some systems, some commonality, the marketing side of it. You mentioned to me as we were talking earlier, there was a wave in the mid 2010s. So over, almost like a decade ago now, of social media, and things had started to change. So you guys had already, you looked at expanding. I believe at that point you had already bought out another business and opened another branch. Is that right? Or right around
Not quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah, not quite yet. So I purchased in 2007. As you know, the economy crashed in 2008. So we purchased in 2007. The next step for me, like you said, so first thing was like lay that foundation. Let's get this brand in order so that we can really start to make way. The next thing I did was I purchased some land in a different town that was about 20 miles away. And it really got us out of a overly saturated fence area into an area that was kind of like a newer up and coming suburban area. So we just increased our market area. So that was really like it was a bad timing. I purchased it in 2007, and then the economy crashed in 2008, and there were some really lean, really hard years between like 2008 and 2011 where growth absolutely died. It was back to what you said. We had to get adventurous. I was building wishing wells. I was staining. Even back then, I would do anything that came across my path as we moved into our new area, but we were always working on that branding. So the next step was really just increasing our coverage zone. So that was, let's call it 2009, because really 2007 to 2009, we're just trying to stay alive.
Yep.
Around 9 and 10, when we were in this new area and our brand was really starting to come into play, we were going from a 30-mile radius of reach to around a 60-mile radius of reach as far as taking calls. And I'd say that's what leveled me to the point where I could start to save enough money to where, back to your point, I believe it was 2015. That was when I purchased a new company. They had been in business for a long time. They had already made a footprint in this new market that I had just moved into. And so we purchased them around 2015 and took over their market share of that same area that we were trying to increase in.
Nice. So when that happened, how did you expanding out to another market? And these in your markets are pretty close. Is that right? Like you're a 20, 30 minute drive away, or?
Yeah, they can be. So in our first location, which was in Salem, Massachusetts, the witches, right? Everybody's heard about the witch trials. When we were in Salem, Mass, every single city was a rock throw from one another. And there was 20 fence companies all in that area. And we really only went within that 15, 20 miles. We went about 20 miles out west, away from the coast, to a town called Middleton, Massachusetts, which allowed us to then go another 20 miles further west. So now we were a 60-mile span. So that was when we really started to have to even think about like drive times and things like that. But now they're further apart. So before, everybody was on top of one another. You hear Dan Whaler talk about when I went, I couldn't believe it. You can't drive a trailer. In our first market, you could barely back up a flatbed. In our new market, it was a 2-acre yard.
Yeah.
You were fenced in a lot bigger area and there was less competition. Now we'd have to go 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get to the job site each morning, but you were going to a 50-panel job instead of a 5-panel job.
Yep. Perfect. So how many locations do you have now, Matt?
So right now we have 2 locations. It's a bit of a funny trick. We moved into a building that we were using, but we outgrew that building. And I had mentioned in 2007, I had bought some land for the business, but the economy crashed, so I wasn't able to do anything with it. Again, in 2015, we purchased the land next door. I lied. It was 2017. I purchased the land next to the land I had originally built. We knocked it down, built a building. So they're only 2 miles apart from one another. So they act as one large, but they're technically 2. Gotcha. I guess you could call it 2. Yeah.
So on outside of the fence side, you had been doing wholesale sales. So what wholesale is, what that really means is you're selling to the dealers, you're selling to other fence companies, you're selling to maybe the public or whatever, right? Like you have all these
absolutely.
offerings for material sales only. Then you have your installation crews, et cetera, right? So
That's 100% correct.
Expanding into that. So let's say we're just an owner operator. Maybe we have a second crew. We're looking at going to the next level, and there's an opportunity for doing material wholesale sales or something like that. And there's enough, activity for it, right? What would you make on recommendations? Maybe looking or thinking about going to that vertical, like you've seen the ups, the downs, you understand the obstacles that are in its way. What would you say to someone out there that's even contemplating getting into that space?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll start with the pros. The pros are not dealing with the homeowner. We're a fence installation company, and I say that, but I'm not joking. When you're dealing with fence companies who are purchasing from you, not all of them know what they're doing. Most of them don't know what they're doing, but you're just going to create the order that they place. You're going to make sure that it's loaded onto their truck and that they pay, and then they drive away. Your profit is there. Your profit is made, and those variables that exist when you go out to put up a fence are evaporated. It's their problem now, not yours. It's a much less stressful purchase from them. All right. So that's the benefit. The benefit is that I can now buy in larger bulk because I'm selling far more people. I can purchase for a little bit less, which increases my margins on my fence installation side. And now when I'm dealing with the customer, they do have more of a knowledge about fence than your everyday home buyer. So it's a little bit less stressful of a transaction. That's the benefit. The downside is you need a lot of space. You can't just have what you want to have. You have to have what anybody might need any day, because if you're selling to a fence company and they need a part that you don't have, they're going to go someplace else that has it. And at some point, they're going to stop buying things from you because the other place has everything. So you need space. Next part is you need to now have shop guys. I don't know for sure, but I would gather that the majority of small fence companies between 0 and 3 crews probably don't have a team that's left at the shop all day long that are driving forklifts, that are building and organizing and packing up orders. You now have more of a team right there at the shop every single day that you need. So I would say that is also a little bit of a downside. And then the last downside is it's competitive. I mean, there's other companies, at least in my area, and every area is going to have its own niche. Maybe you're lucky and there isn't another fence specific company around you that sells to fence companies. Maybe they're buying from box stores. But around me, there's 4 very large wholesalers that blow me out of the water, and they buy better and they buy bigger. So it makes it very hard for me to sell to other fence companies because that competition is so stiff. So for me, at least, the competitive nature of it is the last downside of trying to really break into it.
So how do you compete then? Like, how do you guys continue to go? Like, what kind of, if you can get into it, even on a scale wise, revenue wise and stuff, like, what does that look like for you, Matt?
Yeah. So it's grown every year since I've really started to make a focus on it. So when we were just in our first location, we didn't have enough space, and we were coming out of that really bad time where we weren't able to buy as good because 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, we had a lot of serious issues with credit drying up, right? So everybody had these issues. That was the big breakdown. The housing market went and no one wanted to lend. I couldn't get 3 or 4 truckloads on credit anymore. I had to pay cash for those items. Our wholesale almost disintegrated to nothing at that time because I was a 19-year-old kid who had just spent all his money on a business and land. I didn't have money to pay for the materials. Our wholesale went to nothing. Around 14, 15, when we had enough money in the bank to buy truckloads with our own money, we started to make that niche. What got us back into it was customer service. I spent more time helping companies put their order together. I made sure that their order was ready when I said it was going to be ready. When it was loaded, we quadruple checked their order of laden to make sure that they left with the proper stuff and that they weren't having issues. And how we first got our foothold back into it, I believe, was that our customer service was better than the other companies. We may not have been as competitive price-wise, but at the time, the economy was booming and it wasn't as important to be the cheapest guy out there.
Yep.
Throughout our building process, that's how we built it. While we were trying to buy better, which we did, to keep prices lower for customers, which we did, that helped us gain market share as well. It was our customer service that really put our footprint in. As we grew, we were able to buy better. As we were able to buy better, we were able to now get competitive and steal that next layer. Then Corona hit, and then we couldn't get any materials whatsoever. And then we got back to where, well, now pricing can't be our claim to fame. And luckily, we had built that foundation of customer service, so we were able to maintain. It was at some point a couple of $100,000 a year in total sales. We set a goal this year to do $750,000 in total sales from it. My wife told me yesterday that we need to do $60,000 between now and the end of June to hit our first quarter goals. So it's not a booming season for us by any means, but we're kind of staying close to holding on to our goal.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I hope any wholesaler distributor that's listening, especially the national guys, just listen to what Matt said, because it's the same reason right now. So I was looking at my numbers yesterday, Matt. I want to say my January and February this year at Radius were terrible. I mean, it was brutal. Like, I think if you go back to my first couple episodes on the show, especially like episodes like 4 through 8, you'll probably hear in my voice, I'm like, I'm not sure we're going to make it. Like, I'm sitting here going, I don't have any money. I'm spending thousands of dollars every day and we're going the wrong way. I'm like, maybe this isn't going to work. But when I started this and knew that my months 11 and 12 of being in a full-time business were going to be the winter months when it can be brutal. And it was awful brutal. I was sitting there thinking the whole time going, as we come out of this, well, back to the numbers, but we ended up we're already over $1 million something for the year right now. Okay. So that's since January. Knowing the first 2 months were terrible, that kind of shows you where our growth, I mean, it skyrocketed. So when I say we're on fire, we're literally on fire. Like my head is burning. But so why that's important. I have a distributor that I bought 85% of my materials from last year. Their customer service at the end of the year, going into the beginning of the year, was so abysmal that the other competitor that I hadn't been buying from in our market, the other wholesaler, like came in, and I said, if you guys just, I'd be like, Matt, if you just get close to the price, doesn't even have to beat them on the price, but just get freaking close, I'll buy the stuff from you. So they gave me a sweet deal. The big thing was that they offered that some of these guys, as a wholesaler distributor, they offered me an extended terms package, and I ordered 2 truckloads of material. So when I look back at how did we survive through February, it was because at the end of the year on December 28th, I took 2 truckloads of material in, and we were building on that through my 2 months that I'm like, there is no way I would have already been out of business. There wouldn't be a podcast, all that crap, because I would have died if I didn't have that material to cash flow into the March, April, May boom that we experienced. I mean, like that, Matt, that's something I want to leave everyone that's listening to this and understand. We literally grew by 7 times in 1 month from February to March, right? Like, and having those partnerships, having those relationships, but more importantly, like having a wholesaler stand behind you that can do these things. And I don't mean like you guys at JC Fence, like, you don't have to be doing any of these things, but just like extended terms or anything. But the fact of having people that said that they would do what they're going to do, right? And you pull an order and it's ready. So there's also things in what you said about lost time. We cannot quantify as business owners lost time. And that is a crappy thing, right, buddy? Because if you could see all that lost time that's out there, I mean, it would make you sick. It makes me sick just thinking about my own time, right?
Yep.
But our teams, just going out to a big box, a big box store. It's the same reason I don't buy anything at a big box store. The guys could be there for an hour and 15 minutes getting like
just
a couple people pieces of lumber. And you're like, what? Yep. Or I need a unit of pickets and it takes 50 minutes. Nah, man, if I pull up to JC Fence and I need a unit of pickets, it better take me 15 minutes or less.
That's right.
Right? Like it should be
in and out.
It should be just, all right, that's all you need. Like I want people to go, that's all you need. I go to a box store. They're like, yeah, we'll call somebody in a forklift, pull around the back of the building. Like it's a nightmare. I don't know. For you guys that buy from box stores, I don't know how you do it. Find a distributor or a wholesaler. Find someone like Matt in your marketplace that freaking knows what is going on with fence, what's going on with whatever you sell or buy. But like, go buy there. Like stop going to a box store because they have their value in certain spots and times, but really being around other professionals that understand this stuff and then look at that that customer service and understand that time lost is something that we just cannot quantify. So do you guys set like KPIs, key performance indicators? Do you guys set those expectations on your wholesale side for how you interact with the other fence companies in your area?
Yeah, we do. We have like time from when they ask for a quote to when the quote goes back out. We don't want anybody waiting more than 24 hours for it. And even that, honestly, is more than I would like it to be. As far as load times go, we have we're always tracking time in and time out of trucks, both on installation and in wholesale side. From when a truck pulls into the yard to when it leaves, it's got to be under a half an hour. If it goes over, they're losing money, we're losing money. So then the rest of the KPIs as far as wholesale, because we're in fence, it's lucky. They kind of overlap. So it's like, how long does it take to kit an order? How long does it take? We manufacture our wood. So when I say build, I mean building wood, a lot of custom wood around here. So time for build is very important to us because we set a labor charge to each panel. Mm-hmm. And if you're over that, you're losing margins, right? So, but as far as the wholesale goes, it's always about loading times. It's always about time to get prices back to customers. Some materials we would say we want to keep in stock all the time. So the KPI is like, how fast can we turn that order over? We want to tell the guy that he can have it in 2 days. There are other stuff that's out of our hands that takes distribution outside of us. We don't really have the ability to track how long that is because it's out of our hands. But yeah, we're certainly looking at things like that to make sure that we're competitive with other local, companies.
Yep. And again, another nugget you dropped there, buddy, was it when you were saying that is you don't know the loss of, well, what am I trying to say? I was to say the loss of time, but there's things the things that you can control, you understand those things and drive those things. That's the better way of putting it, right? Like, so that's absolutely the thing to take away from what you said, because that is customer service. And we need to all remember that even on our installation side, if you're out at, a house and you're working on something like what, your customer has an expectation off of what you explain to them. So as we've noticed over the past couple of years, everybody wants to know, how long is this going to take? How long is this going to, what time are you coming? How long is this going to take? My two worst questions to ask me, because I go, I don't freaking know, and I don't freaking know. That's what my answer wants to be. I'm like, how about this? You hired me to do the best. Just let me do it.
Just trust me.
I'll get there,
just trust me.
and we'll get it done. I'll get it done so fast that you're gonna go, what? You'll be be like that Steven guy on YouTube, the Asian dude that does his dad. I don't know if you've ever seen that. But he goes, what the hell? You'll be wondering like, what just happened here, guys? So like, just be cognizant of that, like that. But as clients, they do not, we see customers out there every day that, their expectations are different than ours. Right. And we have to set for those boundaries. But I love the fact that you guys are monitoring that, doing the best you can, and you understand. That's the right kind of partnership, Matt, that I've been hounding on the last couple of weeks out there with our distributors and wholesalers. And it matters. I mean, because, we have a situation, we have a special type of fence in Oklahoma that we use called it's treated round rail. So it's the round rails. We dowel them, drill holes in them and stuff, do the 2 rail, 3 rail. So instead of vinyl, very often people are using this treated Douglas fir or treated southern yellow pine rail system, right?
Yep.
And it's important to understand that because there's only a handful of companies that offer this, and there's really even less, like maybe like 4 or 5 that can actually dowel and cut and drill these things and efficiently, like they have the correct tooling and stuff like that. So one is a wholesaler, and then one is a competitor of ours, right?
Okay.
And I flipped like it, so it would be like a JC Fence, like your situation, right? They install and they wholesale, but we flipped buying our materials from them because I can call them on the spot. It's a couple dollars more a piece. I do not care because the time saved is not even like, you can't even quantify that. And to know that they can actually do it on the site where the wholesaler is working with another competitor to ship these off. Yeah. So like you start to navigate these things, but these things as a business owner, these things as a manager of a company, Matt, like everybody out there has to be aware of this stuff and has to like listen to what the market is telling you, and be aware of these things. I think there is a lot of times where we get in our own way, right?
Yeah,
like it's very easy to be like, I'm not buying from Matt at JC Fence. Screw that guy. That is my competitor.
Oh, yeah.
But what they might have missed was literally, it could have saved them thousands of dollars if they just came over and just did it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just go buy from Matt.
That's an industry thing. And the more that the social media world allows us to be able to hear and see and learn from people, you hear a lot of the same conversations and you hear a lot of the same people complaining about stuff, but then no one ever really makes any massive change. I feel like our industry is one of the worst of fear of change.
Yep.
People just are so set in their ways. They recognize the issues. They see a solution, but that means changing. Well, I'm not going to change.
Yep.
Well, the biggest part about growth, if you're asking about growth today, and that's our conversation, throughout all of the growth, and I'm not a big company, I'm a tiny little pipsqueak, but I've never been afraid to change. When I was doing $300,000, I wanted to change. When I was doing $750,000, I wanted to change. $1 million, I wanted to change. I mean, all the way up to where we are today. Every single day I go there and I'm like, what can I change so that my customers, my team, and myself have a better experience? If you're afraid to change, you're not going to grow.
Man, so good. That's it. That's the episode. Hanging up. No, I mean, for real. Like, Matt, you put the bow on the package as we wrap this thing up. That's brilliant there, because fear of change is the limiter, right? We've all heard the Zig Ziglar saying in the past, your attitude determines your altitude. If you haven't heard that, go read a book. But like Zig, man, he was so good with his little Zigisms and stuff. But like that, just that concept of like, how can we be better? And what do you think as we do close this one? So there's so much more. We could probably talk for like 3 hours. I'm looking at the time. We're at 40 minutes, and I'm sitting here laughing, going, I still have like 19 questions I wanted to ask, man. So, but let's end on that note, buddy. You said it right there. Fear of change. What is one thing, a tangible thing that you did? And let's go to the next step so we can kind of prep everyone for the next time you're on, is you use social media over the past 7-8 years to revolutionize your business. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
To a degree. So what is one thing, as we're in overcoming that fear, but getting into something like social media, because it's an easy way for any company, whether you're old, new, young, whatever, getting like turning the page and creating something new. Leave us with a nugget on that, buddy.
Yeah, sure. So I guess we can extrapolate the whole thing. So what is social media? Social media is technology. What I would say is let's bundle all technology up into one conversation and say the old school way was, we call it the yellow books. I don't know what you guys call it out where you are, but if you were a fence company when I started and you weren't advertising in the yellow books, you were crazy. And probably up until like 9 years ago, most of the fence companies around me still didn't have social media. It's all that technology that can change your everyday business. They've made this technology to make our lives easier. To get into the yellow book, you would pay money and someone would have to want a fence, open up the book, find fence, and then search through the fence companies. Now they don't even need to know that they want a fence because 20 of their friends might have shared your Facebook post and they might not thought that they needed a fence, but now they saw that JC Fence did this amazing fence and it's like, oh, well, I could use one of those too. It's a very simple task to do yourself. I handle my own social media because I have a routine. I wake up in the morning and I try every morning to make a post. And throughout the day, if I see something cool happening, back to you said, raw, like show your face or show what we're doing, I try to make an attempt to throw something out there. I share your podcast. I share other podcasts to try to help people in the industry. It isn't that difficult, but you can also hire other companies to market for you if you don't have the time to do it. Don't have your mind stuck in the fact that, well, a newspaper article or, there's so many ways to market, right? But Facebook, social media, it does the work for you. And it's who doesn't want to create a way to market where you're not doing the work? It's just like anything else. If I could push a button and have somebody put up a fence for me, and then they would say, well, why don't you put up another fence for them and another? I post a picture of a fence and then like 27 people share my post. I didn't even do anything after that. I just made one post and I've reached 15,000 people by the end of the week. And I'm not even the one that did it. So yeah, for sure. It was at the beginning, I was a young kid and the fence industry was 55-year-olds. I was 20-year-old. I was not the only one, right? No way I was the only one. But in my area, I was certainly one of the earlier people to get in on Facebook and Instagram. It's not too late to get into Facebook and Instagram. It reaches a massive, swath of people for free. Yep. $0. So yeah, definitely took us leaps and bounds in our ability to receive calls and receive new customers by being open to not what everybody else was doing, something new.
So good, Matt. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. That is the teaser for our next episode together, because I do have a lot of questions for Matt, how they did it systemically, like what did that look like, things that he concentrates on, ideas that you've really revolutionized in just creating content. As a content creator now, it is difficult sometimes to create content. So I love the fact of how you're able to, well, I think that's what everybody could get some value out of, right? Is how you're able to take different things and bring them in. I've noticed that you post some stuff from really abstract areas to me that I'm like, oh, that's kind of genius. Like you saw an article about a pool fence or something, and then you're like, yeah, share that. And I'm like, because I watch your stuff all the time and I'm sitting there thinking, this is great. So that's the next episode. But today, as we talked about the crux of everything at the end, which Matt put it together perfect, was overcoming that fear of change. Like, let's just be aware of that, do our parts as we're looking at scaling, understand that fear is going to be the biggest inhibitor of that, but then asking questions, finding people. So if you have questions, if you need help, if you need to reach out to Matt, you can find him on social media. You can always, at any time, you guys are taking in any of the content on my channel, you can email info@protectingyourradius.com. And we would be happy to connect you with other professionals out there in the marketplace, answer any questions you have, get you in touch with vendors or whatever. Man, I got a spider web of a network that we can get some answers for you if you really need some help. So don't be afraid to do that. And Matt, what was crazy is we put this all in perspective. I was looking at analytics yesterday on YouTube, and at least the sun stopped shining through brilliantly as we talk. Oh no, that's hilarious. I was like, It doesn't look like you're a saint anymore with the halo glowing behind you. So 77% of the people that are watching and liking our YouTube and YouTube Shorts for Protecting Your Radius, do not subscribe.
Good.
So now that I actually know that there's a crap ton of people that are actually looking at this, but they are not subscribed. Hey, smash that subscribe button, hit the
That's
like, join us for the journey. And I'm going to start doing some shorts. This will probably actually turn into a short where I'm going, smash the like button. I feel like Mr. Beast or something. You got to smash that like, my kids will be so excited. I'm going to start imitating him. My son will think I'm the hero of the world. So, but anyways, hey buddy, appreciate your time as always, Matt. Where can everybody see you on social media? Let's get that handle out there real quick.
Yeah, I'm at JC Fence North Shore on Instagram and on Facebook at JC Fence.
That's it. And follow us at @radius_podcast on all social media platforms. And we will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
You've been listening to the Protecting Your Radius podcast from the Luxecore Studios in Bixby, Oklahoma. Thanks for sticking around, and connect with us and all of our partners at www.protectingyourradius.com. We want to thank our premier partners. Luxecore, the newest line of premium quality composite infill to slide into your FenceTrac fence system. Frame your style today. Also, StainTrac, the world's first patented standalone stain machine. Utilizing flood coat technology, StainTrac covers boards, pickets, posts, and any type of dimensional wood you can think of. And what better way to use your StainTrac machine than to use the easy application Wood Defender family of stains. Wood Defender goes on easy and covers in one coat with no back brushing. And of course, the true power of our show is you, the listener. Please rate and review our show on whatever platform you consume this content. Your 5-star likes and reviews help other contractors get the message that we all want to be better and do better. And in the construction world, we can never forget that before you can be great, you've got to be good. Before you can be good, you've got to be bad. But before you can even be bad, you've got to try.